Making a game takes time, especially on your own, but it taking 3 years for me to release my game on Steam was not what I expected. What started off as a school project quickly turned into a passion project, and now we're finally here. Though I didn't work on this full time, there being a bunch of breaks, like my entire graduation semester, this devlog single-handedly moving the release date by half a year, it was still a very interesting journey. Also, I'm in an ambulance right now. I broke my leg while setting up a beamer for this video, but it's alright, don't worry about it. Let's get this started.
The project starts as a simple school project. It was the penultimate semester and the school allowed us to set our own learning goals, so that we basically get one last chance to make a game we want to make, learn exactly what we want to learn right before being thrown in the industry to make gambling games or model trees for Todd Howard. My goal was to do what I am doing now, be a full-time solo indie game developer. And so my goal for this semester was to go through the entire process of designing, making and publishing a game once in a smaller scale. 2 years later we're here, so it's not as small as originally planned, but it's the thought that counts. I figured I'd make a game that takes place in the same universe as my project at the time, Encaved. A spin-off with a different main character, a roguelite, just like the original Encaved would be, but a different gameplay genre, an endless runner. Now, endless runners are generally meant to be extremely simple to get into. Single tap controls, 1 or 2 actions given to the player, but not mine. Mine should be a game not targeting my mom, but us, gamers. I quickly dropped 4 actions on the player. Jumping, obviously. I-frame dodge rolls, so that Iron Pineapple can cover it in his Souls-like series. Swinging a big Morning Star medieval mace. And aiming and firing an old sawed-off musket rifle. Very strange weapons for a character stuck underground after nuclear warfare happened. But don't worry, I have so much lore written down and I will cleverly use it as a tool to distract you from some possible problems the game might get later. Hey, look at this, hey! So, the runner's favorite food is lasagna, and I tackled level generation in a pretty simple way. The level exists of game chunks with their own sets of obstacles. They are placed after one another when the player gets close enough and will be removed again when they're not needed anymore. On screen, this looks like there's an endless cave, but you and I know the truth. These chunks make up the very first stage of the game, later referred to as the Central Underpass. This stage gets a bunch of obstacles, and I want those to each be unique, possibly have different ways of tackling them, and force the player to use their arsenal of actions wisely. First of all, I made some spikes. These are simple, they can be jumped over or rolled through. These are so simple that they can appear pretty often, and I can use them for many occasions. They can keep the player on their toes, change the timing on certain jumps or dodges, and work best when combined with other obstacles, such as the boulder piles. You have to use your mace for these. There's no other way. And this is when stuff gets interesting, because for some reason I added the falling stalactites, a third obstacle that's just rock formation. So quickly after releasing the initial version of the game on the Play Store a year ago, I updated this into a bag of explosives, simply because it looks way more exciting, unique, and it's more fun to blow it up. You can shoot these with your gun, or jump over them after they've dropped. Your choice. There are also acidic pools, which is the same thing as lava in a 3D Mario game. Now these are fine, sure, these are just obstacles. I want to see some cool stuff, actual enemies. The bats are crazy. These fellas charge up and shoot, all while the player is already dealing with whatever the game is throwing at them in the meantime. These shots can be dodged, but you really just want to get rid of that bat. I made it so they require 3 shots to be gone for good. And even though it shoots every 5 seconds or so, I made it so the initial shot gets delayed a bit. So if the player hits all their shots as soon as the gun is reloaded every time, the bat won't get a chance to shoot. Now with walls stopping the player from doing this every time, new bats joining in before the first one was killed, you don't always get these shots for free, and you'll have to look for an opening. Now the Central Underpass needs one more obstacle. It's the Molotov Maniac. And sure, the fire can just be a directly damaging obstacle. I'm sure my mom would like that, but again, this game's for us gamers. So I implemented this burn status effect. I took inspiration from Enter the Gungeon's burning status effect, where the bar fills up, and when it reaches the top, the player takes actual damage. However, there's obviously a way to combat this, and I actually learned about this way back when I was 6 years old. All you need to do is stop, drop, and roll. 7.
Yeah, that's not enough, bro. You take 6 damage.
How much HP do I have left?
0. You're dead.
And so far you might think this all went pretty swimmingly, but in reality I was pretty horrible at managing the project, and so far I was just doing whatever I felt like doing next. Luckily, this won't happen again for my next project. Thanks to the sponsor of this video, Codecks. Codecks is a project management and community management tool created by game developers for game developers. It has all these interesting tools that just make it much more appealing to me than other project management tools I've used before. Heck, I'd even resigned to the good old making a list of to-dos on Discord and adding a sunglasses emoji when I finish them. Which, Like, some of the really interesting features are the integrated community management tools. It has a Discord integration so that you can update your community automatically on what you're working on, or have bug reports directly from the game automatically added to a designated deck. You can sign up and use it for free, so I recommend giving it a try. If you decide to sign up for a paid tier, however, you can use my link in the description to get 30% off for your first 3 months. Thank you so much to Codecks for sponsoring this video. Now, since at this moment the game was still a school project, the uni I attended actually organized the whole playtest day for middle schoolers to come visit and play our games. And I needed to make sure that I could actually test stuff, not just have them fight enemies and figure everything out themselves. The game needed a tutorial, so I could test how well it would prepare them for the actual game. Ideally, tutorials don't take the controls away from the player and don't show too much text. It feels rewarding to figure something out yourself, but it doesn't feel very rewarding to have to read through 5 new steps after having just read through 6 steps. I like to see discovering game mechanics as a gradient line in terms of how it makes you feel. In an ideal world, the player can discover everything themselves. However, they sometimes need a bit of a nudge in the right direction. Preferably, this nudge is as small as it can be while still being effective enough. In my case, when a player starts their very first run, they are met with a control on their screen, plus the obstacle meant to overcome. They can mess around with what this action does exactly, figure out how to use it properly as much as they want, because as soon as you manage to actually avoid the obstacle with it, you're allowed to continue to the next action, and so on. When passing the final action correctly, the game automatically starts properly, and the player is let loose on the playground to test their newly learned skills. I didn't want to tell exactly how to fight a bat, for instance, or that acidic pools need to be jumped over, as I think the player has been nudged enough. It's only really necessary to explain the controls and give a good sense of how you can use these, leaving the player's very first encounter with the bat right over here, in the green zone again. Exactly where I want it to be. We'll see if that works though, on the playtest day. I arrived at school, and many of my fellow students had these big installations, luring in more of the middle schoolers to come and test their games, plus it enhanced the testing experience by a lot. Meanwhile, all the preparation I did was, well, I brought my phone, which is the most important step. Anyways, I sat down and waited. When the middle schoolers arrived, they all ran to the big screens immediately, while I was just chilling in my corner.
Hey, can I try again?
So, are the controls understandable?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Cool. I saw you took some damage there. Was that because the game was too punishing, or was
No, it was just the sun. You know, like, I couldn't see very well.
You said you have a son? I playtested some more and I learned that I was smarter than anyone else there, basically, because I understood exactly what was going on in the game, yet none of them seemed to know what to do. Now, jokes aside, the tutorial needed some slight changes, like iframes or invincibility frames didn't make sense to everyone, which I completely understand, so the obstacle teaching you to dodge roll comes with a sign that explains how the roll works, basically. When learning to shoot, some players just shot into the distance, jumped over the explosive bag, and did that, like, 20 times without realizing they were doing something wrong, so there's now a target on the bag that shows that you need to shoot it. Right. Awesome. That works. The tutorial is perfect. Dude, can you stop? That's my heartbeat you're playing on. Oh, by the way, Doc. Can I call you Doc?
Huh? What? Why would you call me that? My name is Michael. I don't call you Ronald. You look like a Ronald.
Alright, I'm sorry. I didn't know. Michael, why am I connected to all this stuff? I only broke my leg.
Leg? I thought you said you broke your neck.
Michael, they brought me in like this.
Which leg?
Alright, well, the UI in the game so far was very simplistic and purely white on the generally dark background, but I want to split it in two. I want the main menu as a whole to feel like its own thing with any piece of UI blending into the game's world, where instead pure gameplay UI such as the player's health, distance ran, distance to their previous record, and any settings would be very simple and clean to not distract from the gameplay. So the player can super clearly see what's going on at any point somewhere in your field of view without the need to actually pan your view there and back to the gameplay. Both UI types play a different role in my game. I just enjoy the menu not looking like this, but instead like this. It's more vibrant, feels warmer, and it simply does a lot to fill up the atmosphere. Going to the shop is especially interesting because it allows me to come up with a whole new interesting way of presenting a shop menu. But first, we need a bunch of skins, and because I'm an idiot, I haven't thought of a way to more easily convert the frame-by-frame animated character into more skins. So if I ever wanted to make a unique skin, I'd have to draw over 101 frames every single time. But I've still done quite a few.
Hey, what? Oh! So hey, there's more though, there's more. Okay, this looks fire. I'm gonna have to jump in myself. See ya.
Now, this is awesome. This was basically the entire list of skins when the game first released. However, I wasn't done yet.
Crusader Knight! Light Doctor! Now get ready for hazmat suit! And now, Wendigo! Molotov Maniac! Don't forget about Astronaut! Mario!
No, he's not in the game. I tried, but I couldn't get the rights, sadly. 10,000 likes and I'll try to get the rights for me.
Ice Climbers!
Now, I also wanted the game to showcase some of YouTube game devs' finest, since I'm obviously a part of the community, and they're my boys! Come on now, they're my boys!
I really want to hone in the movement and, make it really responsive. We added coyote time and buffer effects and... Wait, what?
What the?
What is that, dude? Why do you make my head so big? Do you actually think I look like that? I don't want to be associated with my own branding anymore. You know what? I'm gonna change it.
Okay, sure. You're not gonna change your whole branding because you dislike the skin. Wait, what?
Hello, Carlson.
Hey! Okay, alright. Oh yeah. Oh no. Hey man, I was just...
Dude, what is that?
What? What is what?
You can't just include them without asking me first. That's just not how it works. It's literally my intellectual property, and I never gave you permission to use
Can I?
What?
Use them?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Alright. Why does he walk like that?
Hello there, I'm Noah, representing the Blackthorn Prod YouTube channel, and I'm here to...
Why are you by my window?
Dude, why are you out by my window? I'm 8 years old in this scene. That's very strange. Also, why are you indoors? I'm looking out my window. How are you?
Oh, it's just that when I wanted to record this footage, it started raining, so I had to film indoors.
Alright then.
I'm just here to show you something.
Don't say that to an 8-year-old, dude.
No, just look at this.
And this was, well, pretty interesting. Penny's game has been cancelled since the announcement of the skin. Barji has changed his entire branding since then. Dani is... what is he doing? But I'm giving an official warning to the Blackthorn Prod brothers. I don't know what, but something will happen to you soon. Probably as well. But it happened. A lot happened. Now all these skins need to be represented in the shop. My idea for the actual outfit changing menu was an old TV where hitting the fast forward and rewind buttons makes you change the skins. I think this is the perfect example of the sort of UI I want the main menu to have. And while it took a little bit to figure out the style for it, I'm very happy with the way the TV looks now. It was interesting, because I never really draw objects this large in pixel art with such a big amount of pixels to work with. It feels like I get forced to introduce all these different shades to keep it from looking too empty. Because I normally kind of limit myself to a single style, that's exactly what led me to coming up with the shop menu for the skins. What if every skin/skin group gets their own in-world poster assigned to them, which you can scroll through by a little poster rack system the shopkeeper made? These posters have a range of original purposes. Some are pure propaganda, others are ads for movies, toys. There's an old ancient scroll and a newspaper article about a Wendigo sighting, an instruction paper on the use of a hazmat suit, a museum pamphlet about a suit of armor, a wanted poster, an old street sign painted over with graffiti. There are so many drawing techniques I've never used before and so many different styles used to make these poses unique, interesting, and fitting, and I'm super happy with the way the list turned out. This whole little adventure became not just a list of assets to be made for a video game, but drawing practice at its finest. Others have sketchbooks, I have a list of posters, and whenever I want to try something new, I can add a poster to the list, and with that a skin to the game. Or, well, that sounds really cute and all, but the skins still take like 10 hours to make on their own. It's 101 frames, so still not ideal. You can't have them all. But how do you get them all? With me going through a bunch of trouble to keep the game somewhat consistent and lore friendly, I cannot just have the player picking up a bunch of coins, and I talked about this before in a previous video, but realistically in this situation, people would just start trading again. There is no economy and there's no money.
No, I'm not selling you these food supplies for those 2 pieces of paper. Those don't have any value here, little— Wait, is that a PSA 9 holographic Charizard base set 1st edition?
And if there were to be a specific currency, it would probably be bullets, since they're small, easily carried around, but the currency itself is really valuable. They don't have a made-up value, they're actually really valuable. However, since the player can shoot in-game, and it would be strange to collect bullets, but when shooting you don't lose them, or you do, but that's not ideal for the gameplay. So yeah, bottle caps, they work fine, I think, even on Twitch, on which I'll stream my next game's development very often, so go follow me over there. The caps are used as a little point system thingy that Twitch has. Wait, Gimbo! Gimbo!
Yeah?
What's the point system thing called that Twitch has?
Oh, they're just called channel points, I think.
Really?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Alright, thanks, man.
Yeah, no worries, man.
Oh wait, Gimbo, I'm recording a video and it seems like they haven't liked the video yet. Can you do something cool to encourage them to leave a like?
Yeah, I can do something.
Awesome, let's see it.
Okay,
alright.
Yeah.
Okay. Now with some help from my friends Niels and Twan, we made a couple of songs for the game that would all follow the same main tune. In the main menu it's acoustic and sad, the proper feeling for this whole situation the character is in. Now when you enter the shop, it transitions to this chill, cozy version of the same tune. Right, you're vibing with the shopkeeper, browsing his wares, the song really suits it. Now starting the game builds up a rock version of the song, slowly adding more and more instruments until the player reaches 1000 meters and it turns into an all-out metal version. Very cool, very cool. I'm happy with this, Oh hey, Gimbo, are you— Oh, you can stop, by the way, you can stop. Yeah, sorry, I should have said something earlier. I didn't realize you were still going. Anyways, I'm going to click the publish button.
What, without any trouble from Google?
Yep, without any trouble from Google.
What? Why did you say it like that?
Alright, publishing now! The game was a complete success! Well, not really. The only way the game could make me money was through optional ads. There weren't even any forced ones in there, and there were no in-game purchases either. So after a whole month, I made a grand total of $12. I can't even use those, I'm European. However, the game so far has got more than 5,000 downloads and a whole bunch of positive reviews. Thank you all so much for that. That part is definitely unreal. It also means that the people who played the game did really like it, and I figured as long as I pair any updates for the game with a new devlog, YouTube gets another chance at actually finally starting to recommend those devlogs, and with that, the game would do better. Which, you know, now would be a nice moment to finally start doing that, YouTube. Alright, let me explain. So the game was very fun to people, with a certain cap in fun. Sure, it was enjoyable to slowly get better at the game, start off failing, but making it to 1000 meters for the first time after your 6th run, getting a higher and higher score, but it gets pretty repetitive after a while, and I really want to make sure this game is less of an endless runner and more of a roguelite endless runner. Here we go again. So,
through random level generation, obstacle generation, every run is different. That's already the case for me. But also every run you get completely different items, different builds. These change your powers, your movesets, your strategy for the run, and
kinda sounds like you should add an item system to your game.
Gimbo, that's what I was getting to, Gimbo! Like I just explained, item systems can be a supreme aspect of a roguelite experience. In some occasions, a single item can change your run completely, while other item systems only work in little mini upgrades. A good way to satisfy the player with an item system is by having the items combined. The first game to do this well was The Binding of Isaac, where its sequel almost completely focused on perfecting it. You could surely go crazy with combining different items and creating very, very interesting builds. Then Risk of Rain entered the chat and said, you know what, combinable items are cool, but what if you could stack them?
Thanks, man.
While that turned most items into just stat boosts, since those make sense to stack, you know what I mean? Every other item is also still stackable. The very rare item that makes your attacks explode. Sounds like a nice single buff, right? But getting another one means that the explosions are even bigger now. Okay, and that's 43.
Shoot to the roughly to the center of the volume.
That obviously looks completely ridiculous, but also, wait a minute, go back. Pay attention well, you can hear us laughing, you know, we're having fun. We had fun. It's fun to become ridiculously overpowered over time, if only you have the correct build. That's kind of what I'm going for.
So conclusion, the game needs items. These all need to be unique and not just like stat boosts, as stat boosts are reliable, but also pretty boring item system. I've been playing a bit of Scourgebringer recently, which deals with 2 item systems. There's the Blood Blessings, which can be obtained at a shrine, which only spawns once per stage, meaning that if you make it all the way to the final boss, you can encounter 5 of these. These upgrades can be interesting. Like, the more currency you have, the more damage you deal.
Or your blaster charges up automatically while enemies are around.
These are the interesting ones that actually change your runs. But then again, there are also just the lame stat boost drops that just up your gun damage, up your sword damage. Sure, it's nice to find one of these, but it doesn't really change much. Especially since these upgrades only add 5 to 10% to these stats, you don't even notice you got stronger. These drops appear way more often, like 20 times per run or so, yet the actually interesting upgrades can only be obtained 5 times per run at best. Design-wise, this makes the game very easy to balance, as the cool powers are locked behind the max counter, but it makes every run feel super similar, genuinely hurting the game's replayability by an insane amount. I really want every item to not feel like a lame stat boost, but an actually cool item that changes a lot more than a number in the code. Take for instance the
stress relief, you can now heal on the run, but look out cause the heal resets when shooting your gun. You can overheal with the bulletproof vest, combine both items and your run will be blessed. Speaking of blast, here are the explosive bullets. When killing enemies you can spread damage to the fullest, or try burning them when picking up the fire bullet item, and remember stacking any of these items leaves them crying cause bad stun will do exactly as it says. You just hit it right before they shoot and stun him, unless you choose Berserk instead, a different perk instead. When you kill him you won't have to do any work, instead you'll be untouchable after, nicely combinable with morphine, and items can be stacked like I told you before. See, don't worry, I'll stop yapping. I want to tell you about grenades though, which is a screen nuke that automatically activates when there's a certain number of enemies on screen. Stacking up on grenade items reduces the number of enemies necessary. It combines well with stress relief, where you're not allowed to shoot if you want it to heal you, so grenades can be a slight extra bit of protection there. A blood bag revives you once, shotguns give you more bullet shards. There are also some items that are simply stat boosts. Extended magazine, morphine, fire resistance, but I do think simple stat boosts have their purpose in upgrade systems. It's a very plain, always useful, passive upgrade where after you get it, there's just something you need to worry about less now. In combination, they work well, as long as there are enough other types of upgrades as well to go along with them.
The items add so much to the game. Replay value has gone up by a tremendous amount, and the runs themselves are so much more fun. The items also synergize pretty well, I can't lie. Picking up these items is done through enemy corpses that can be found on your path every 1000 meters, or every 500 meters early in the run to make sure the player can get their hands on their first few items quicker. There's always a choice between 3 items though. My idea here is that the luck versus skill graph that I drew myself, yet another gradient, I didn't have one laying around like I did with the discovery graph, so this one doesn't look as good, but whatever. Chance is pretty cringe.
To some extent. In certain situations.
Like, leaving stuff out of the player's hands, instead depending on luck to overcome something, isn't super mega cool in most cases. However, it also has its uses. It makes games relatively fair in multiplayer, as long as everyone gets the same odds. It can force players to adapt, can lead to more chaotic gameplay, and especially the case in my game, it makes your runs different from one another. If I can choose any item I want every single time, I'm going to choose the same good item I like every single time. Items need to be random, but the game also shouldn't become purely luck-based. One of the strengths of the item system I'm using is synergies, where the items work well in combination with each other. That means that one of the important skills in roguelites, game knowledge, could play a major factor for the item system here. Giving the player a choice allows them to use their game knowledge and figure out what item works best for them and their build at that moment. It turns a quick yay into a quick yay! The picking of the item itself becomes a major aspect of the gameplay, making this screen not just a break for the player, but a minigame of its own. Add a little timer that leaves the player with empty hands if they can't figure it out in time, and you get this perfect balance in rewarding the player. I thought it was really smart to invent this whole thing, but after implementing this, I learned about so many games rocking the exact same idea. So, what? Still, Anyway, now typically roguelites have some kind of logbook or almanac to keep track of the items and enemies you encounter in runs. This allows players to actually understand the items more, learn exactly how much of a movement speed increase the movement speed increase is, learn a lot about the lore, and all without needing a fan wiki. And since my game doesn't have a fan wiki, there's no place for players to learn more about the items and receive tons of lore. It's not a hint for you guys to make a fan wiki, by the way. This is literally just me introducing my own logbook system. Call me crazy, but I can do this all day. And yes, I hear you, I might have referenced some other book opening animation for this, but come on, man. Sure, the logbook looks pretty cool, but I really wanted this to go hard. So check this out. Yes! Giving the pages some more depth through dithered shading, this sells the effect of flipping the page even more. Now combine that with darkening the bottom page right after starting the flip and right before ending the flip, makes it look even more 3D, even though it's literally just scaling the x-axis to 0 and then back to 1 again. Subtle easing adds the idea of perspective, making it look even more 3D. Now for filling up the pages. Yes, come on! The pages displaying the items explain what the items do exactly and give some stats. However, they also have some sketches that the main character drew or notes that were written down by them. Like for instance for the blood bag item, the character scribbled a note, which is a list of compatible blood types. A pretty good note to write to yourself, so if you look closely, you'll find that the character you're playing as has the blood type A+. It's the small things like this that I just really enjoy in games. For the morphine item, there's a usage guide taped in there. Stress relief has a ripped out photo taped in there, of presumably the original house of the character. Looking back at that photo probably relieves stress, you know what I'm saying? The grenade item has a list of different grenade models and their cooking times, because you never know what kind of grenades you find, and it's pretty nice to know when it explodes after activating it, right? These item pages are cool, but there need to be some obstacle pages as well. These bookmarks dividing the chapters also function as buttons, so clicking the obstacle button brings me to the obstacle pages immediately. Obstacles don't require as much text to explain what they do. They're spikes. Don't touch the spikes. What? So there's a lot of space for lore and anatomy sketches, bro. I love this book so much. Lastly, my favorite pages, the stage pages. What? I haven't told you about the second stage yet? Hold on a second, let me show you. The idea is that you automatically switch stages every 1000 meters, which is also exactly when you would be rewarded with a new item. That makes for a cool reward system in my opinion. It's like,
hey, hold on a second, hey. What's up, man? Hey, congratulations on beating that stage. It looked tough. Yeah, as a prize, you get to pick one of these. Look, yeah, pick one, because the next stage is literally Ohio. So
I think I'll go something good. I think I'll increase my jump height by 30%.
That's a great choice. That's an amazing choice.
And I want every stage to obviously not only be different visually, but I want them to have their own unique pool of obstacles. And my idea for this stage is to turn it into an overgrown part of the cave. Mossy, lots of plants, which also means that there are going to be a bunch of mutated animals hanging around. First off, I made a tile set that's much more advanced than the tile set of the already existing cave. It has a bunch of extra decorations, which remind me a bit of me. They don't really interact with anyone, but at least they look really cool. Now for that unique obstacle pool. I figured stalactites can really just fit in any stage in the game, really. Just recolor them so they don't look out of place, and that's it. Same for the acidic pools, they definitely fit well in here. Now obviously there's going to be a bunch of bats here, but I kinda need some completely new mutated animals in here as well. So I present to you the boar baby. Let's go. You deserve the peace and you deserve the beast. He comes from behind you, just jump over quick, just like running from police. The animation frames are taken from a pig jumping over. He is running under, but it's not a stopper, so it makes you wonder. He's about to blunder. Does a Harry Potter or a golem drop it? So you're going yonder. I'm just growing fonder of this mossy grotto till another one. What? Is that a fly? Mutated fly. I wonder why. Don't mind me. I'm just passing by. Oh my god, he's speaking giant maggots. They got in my eye. The maggots cover the player and blind them. However, you can whack them off by swinging your hammer around and get rid of them that way. I like that because the maggots are more of a trail dropped by the fly. The player can be smart and choose the bottom paths from structures like these when the timing is right to make the roof catch the maggots for you. It's just a cool little interaction, so yeah, I made a bunch of those. For the sound effects from all of these guys, I generally use a library of sound assets I own and combine them, or add some effects when necessary. However, I couldn't find a good mutated fly vomiting out maggots sound effect. So I grabbed my mic and here's the completely unedited, raw version of my fly vomiting recording. I don't think I can ever recreate this, and I'm honestly perfectly fine with that. Alright, well, anyways, now the logbook is filled with a whole lot of new pages, talking about Moss Hollow, the new enemies in it, but there's another page introduced, showing off the 3 different enemies in the game. It speaks of legends going about in the cave system about certain mutated beasts sporting strangely vibrant colors. Almost gold. Now why is that a thing then, huh? Well, you know how Pokemon has a phenomenon called a shiny Pokemon? Any Pokemon you encounter has a 1 in 8,192 chance to be a different color than it normally is. Now there are some people who don't really value life that attempt to hunt these for fun, but sane people like you and me have probably just encountered like 1 or 2 of these in our entire life. See, when I was a wee little fella, I encountered a shiny Geodude, which turns him from grey/brownish to solid gold. And I was in complete shock, of course. However, literally days before this happened, there was an episode on TV where a golden Sudowoodo got hunted because, he was made of gold. And all he wanted was to live a normal life. There I was, confronted by a golden Geodude in front of me, and all I could think was,
wow, you're golden as well. You must be hunted a lot. Oh, I better let you go. I'm sorry for bothering you. I hope you live a good life in this patch of grass I found you in. Goodbye, Geodude.
No! You idiot! Oh, I was too late! That's crazy. Anyway, I figured I'd add shinies to my game as well, just as a little nod to the world of my childhood. So bats, boars, and flies each have a 1 in 8,192 chance to be a shiny. And of course, the color I went for is gold. Also, the secondary colors of the shinies are red, blue, and green. Or ruby, sapphire, and emerald. Come on, man. Now with that second stage, the game sure got a lot more interesting. But maybe it should have a third one as well? I want the gameplay in each stage to feel unique. Moss Hollow is flatter and is filled with mostly mutated animals you deal with over time. The central underpass is bumpy, has a bunch of small mini caves, and has very different hazards compared to Moss Hollow. The bandit camp, however, will have lanes.
If you say so, man.
Jumping will move you up a lane, and instead of rolling when you swipe down, you move down a lane. Same controls, everything should feel familiar to the player, but man, this will make for a very different stage, I'll tell you that. So this stage is a bandit camp, but I want the camp to tell a story. Somewhat of a theme in the Encaved universe. There's not much of a direct right or wrong, just people with different views, ideologies, upbringings, and situations. It being a bandit camp doesn't mean it's full of evil thugs, it's a pretty normal camp. People have their jobs, there are kids. The whole bandit thing is just them being desperate and wanting to protect their families. Or is the bandit thing even a thing at all? Are these the same guys as the ones throwing Molotovs at us? The shopkeeper has always had a similar gas mask. Is he with them? He's pretty cool. Is the character we play as even correct as to calling them bandits in the logbook? That's the only thing in the game referring to them as bandits. Maybe they are, to an extent. Maybe they really are horrible people. Or not. I don't know. Do you?
Okay, thanks for that, Gimbo. Your short film topic, though, had to be from one of the lists of the topics we provided with the assignment. Not about some computer game? Or video game?
Fun fact about the gas mask these kids wear, by the way. They are historically accurate. Why do I know? Because I own one. Like a year ago, I was wandering through a thrift store and they had just this box that said Russian gas masks. Alright, they had these numbers on them. I didn't know what they meant. Figured there was some kind of rank or certain divisions in the army that were given these gas masks, so I picked one up with the number 3. These numbers are sizes. I took the smallest one. It did not fit me. See, for kids, these big and heavy filters could get pretty, well, big and heavy. So these gas masks were made with rubber tubes and a little backpack. But for your chest, so it's like a front pack, I guess, or a chest pack. This is where you could store the heavy filter so that it wouldn't weigh heavy on your face. Oh, isn't that crazy? The kids have those same chest pack, front chest. Now there are 3 stages, even more obstacles in the logbook. This looks awesome. There's still a slight problem with the game though. Even though it will take a while, once the player masters all 3 stages, it's pretty hard for them to die. They slowly grow stronger thanks to the items they pick up, but the obstacles don't get tougher. Enemies don't start dealing more damage, nothing like that happens. Meaning the difficulty curve is pretty lame. Don't get me wrong, it takes hours upon hours to get good enough to even make it here, but the problem is that once you can make it here, you can also make it here. Now I need to come up with a way to combat this. I have the perfect idea. What if enemies, you know, the mutated bats, flies, and boars, all gain special mutations, which become more and more common the further you get in the game. Some of them might produce so much body heat that getting in contact with them will not just damage you directly, but also set you on fire as a bonus. They might have grown tougher skin, making it more difficult to take them down, or they might be infested with maggots, leaving a trail of them blinding you with these little fellas. These enemy variations help balance out the difficulty. The player gets stronger, sure, but so do they. Now this same idea can be applied to the stage itself. The level generation system is pretty simple. There are these level parts that get placed one after another at random. They contain their own obstacles, but what if I give them some invisible obstacles? You know, make it completely unfair to the player. No, not like that, but what if there are some obstacles that exist, but have a high chance to instantly Sudoku themselves out of existence the moment they spawn in? And what if this chance is lowered the further you are in the game? This extra bat may have a 2% chance of existing at the start, but 40 minutes into a run, it has an 80% chance of existing. Especially when you've played for a while and you think you know the level parts and the way the obstacles are set up, an extra spike, pile of boulders, or an extra bat out of nowhere can catch you off guard. So replayability has gone up by a lot now. People that get good at the game don't get discouraged to continue playing, but a set can keep on going for so much longer. So long, in fact, that the skins the game has to offer might not even be enough to cleanse their thirst. Once you own your favorite skin, there's not much else you can do with the caps, and collecting them feels a little useless. The random skin was actually an alright solution to this, as the pool of skins it picks from is exclusively the ones you own, so there's a reason to expand your collection. However, just like the difficulty curve had before, there's a certain full stop at some point. You can own every single skin, and then what? Well, what if you can spend your caps on slight head starts? What if there's a second menu in the shop where you can buy items before starting a run so you can give yourself a self-revive? Or start up with a grenade just to make sure that you won't get overwhelmed early on in the Moss Hollow? Maybe invest by buying yourself a bunch of bags of caps if you're saving up for some skins, or save up a bunch of caps for an absolute god run where you max out everything from the beginning. These items only last one run, by the way, of course. And hey, you know me, half of the development time of this game is just me making certain UI elements unnecessarily cool. So of course, this item menu is a mini fridge. Okay. If you click an item, this little light shines on it, and when you close it, it slams shut, and, well, for some reason you can scroll through the mini fridge slightly. It's not that weird, right? I don't think it's that weird.
That's weird, man.
No, it's not. It's not weird at all.
That's just strange, really. It's strange.
Why are you acting like that? Noah, you think this is
Let
weird?
me see. Nah, that looks weird, man.
That's what I'm saying. A fridge doesn't just do
Never
that.
seen a fridge do that in my entire life.
Hold on.
Why did you pause it?
Well, this is exactly where the mobile development ended. Or, well, it wasn't going to be. I was going to put the game on iOS and call it a day, you know, go to the next project. But then Apple decided I had to pay $100 every year to have it on the App Store instead of the one-time $25 fee the Play Store has. But then I also had to have a business website apparently, so I had to pay for the hosting on that as well. And based on the amount of people worldwide that have an iOS device versus an Android device and the money made from the Play Store of this, I'm sure I'm missing a couple of components in this formula, but it can't be that far off either. This just looks like a bad business plan. So I was left with a choice. Either just upload the mobile game as it is on HIO, call it a day and move on to a new project, or really put in the effort to make it a proper PC game and put it on Steam instead. I asked this question during a stream I did at some random time in the middle of the week where most people were still in school or at work, so the 8 people that were there at that moment decided my near future. It was the full-on Steam release. Here we go. So, a couple of important things to factor in when converting from mobile to PC. Screen size. Due to the much larger size of a PC or laptop monitor, what seemed like subtle effects and animations on mobile could easily turn very obnoxious looking when scaled up to PC level. There's also the nature of a mobile game versus PC and how they're played. Players will really sit down and lock in to play a PC game for a bit, whereas a mobile game can very often be launched and be put down later. And very important, converting from free with ads to premium. A premium game is the industry name for a game you need to pay to play. It's going to be a mere $4, basically $3 because people only buy Steam games when they're on sale anyways, but this means a lot for the design of the game. No ads are required anymore, and even though every ad in the mobile version is completely optional, replayability itself needs some redesigns, coming hand in hand with the sit-down, lock-in thing I mentioned earlier, and all that. So, first things first, the game's economy had to change. Where you'd normally get a chance to double your caps after a run by watching an ad, this ad won't exist anymore. So every single outfit is now on sale until the end of time. Getting rid of that cap doubler ad went pretty swimmingly. But how about the distance skip, the item rolls, the revive optional ads? Do I just throw them away? No, it would be nice if the player could still choose to skip the first few hundred meters if they so desire, and re-rolling items would be awesome as well, as long as the amount of re-rolls is limited. Sure, the player could have these from the start, but what if they're unlockable? Meta progression. Progression over the game as a whole, not just within a run, but outside of runs as well. For most people, the defining feature between a roguelike and a roguelite. It will really give the player a sense of accomplishment, more goals, and an overtime upgrade in what the game actually offers you. I'll explain. So I remember back when I played Call of Duty a lot, leveling up would give you new perks and weapons. That doesn't necessarily mean that the weapons you get later on are stronger. That would be unfair. But they might take a bit more skill to use and overall allow you to explore the weapons of the game slowly. Compared it to Counter-Strike, which I played once in my life, and I immediately had access to every single weapon, and I had no idea which one to pick, which simply just made getting into the game a lot deeper of a dive. Now, certain games do allow for actual straight-up upgrades as part of their meta progression. The biggest contenders here are, once again, roguelites. In The Binding of Isaac, you can unlock a bunch of characters and items, keeping the game fresh for the player at all times, just like Call of Duty did, right? Just constantly getting new stuff to try out. Vampire Survivors has the same thing, but they also have those direct upgrades you can unlock. Simply upgrading your base health, damage output, it goes pretty far. And in my opinion, it goes a bit too far. You actively have to turn off your upgrades at some point for you to have a hard time later in the game. Once you have them all unlocked, the game becomes pretty mind-numbing, I can't lie. But as the game's difficulty was still designed with the existence of these upgrades in mind, it's simply impossible to beat the game when you haven't unlocked anything yet. Your first few runs are guaranteed to fail, and the difficulty curve is kind of set. You're not starting to get closer to the 30-minute mark, which is when you beat the game, because you're getting better at the game, but simply because your character is getting stronger. I don't like that, I think that's dumb. But some smaller, slightly helpful upgrades would definitely be fun for In-Cave Runner. For instance, you're not going to start off with the logbook. You're going to unlock it pretty early, but even then, you don't have all the chapters yet, slowly unlocking them by making it further in runs over time. You don't start off with the fridge either, you only unlock it once you have owned 3 different items in one single run. Up to 3 item rerolls can be unlocked individually, as well as a 250 meter skip, which can be upgraded over time up to a 750 meter skip. Certain skins are removed from the poster rack and can instead be unlocked by performing certain tasks as well. You get the skin randomizer when you own at least 10 different skins, for instance. There are more things you can unlock though, things that weren't in the game before. But we still don't know how most of the unlocks are, well, unlocked. And for that, let me take you to my personal Steam page. Don't get distracted, you have to look over here, that's where it is. As you can see, I'm a bit of a completionist when it comes to games. Including consoles I've owned, I've got every achievement in over 100 games. So I know the difference between a good achievement and a bad one. If you've ever played any of the Batman Arkham games, you'll know they're very good, and I love them dearly. However, if you're a completionist like me, with every Arkham game, Rocksteady, the developers, will put you through a gauntlet of combat and stealth challenge maps that you need to get 3 stars on. The worst offender is Arkham City, where you have to beat 18 combat maps with 3 stars each, and 18 stealth maps with 3 stars each. But then you have to do that as Batman, Catwoman, Robin, and Nightwing, so, you know, all of that 4 times. Out of the 76 hours I put in that game, a good 30 of that was just fighting waves of enemies over and over and attempting to perform the dumb takedowns required to get the stars on the stealth maps. If I just finished playing the game after beating the main story, I would have walked off so happy. Hell yeah, that was amazing! But as I instead finished playing after 30 hours of those challenge maps, it lowered my overall experience with the game by a good amount, so completing a game definitely isn't always the way to go. It can basically ruin the whole game experience for you. You know where it'll almost guarantee your experience to be better if you choose to hunt at least some of the achievements though? Exactly. Roguelites. Most roguelites I've played do achievements really well, and is mostly due to 2 components. First, the achievement can really change the way you tackle runs. Every run is supposed to be different in roguelites, but the goal is always the same. Just get to the end of the level, become strong, get to the final boss, and win. Now, achievements can really change the way you tackle your next run. Not just making the random factors the game has different from a previous run, but also your goal, and possibly even your playstyle. Slay the Spire. Normally, when playing as the Silent, I would always look for any cards that help building up poison as much as possible. Those are the cards I would upgrade if I had the opportunity, and I was just really looking for those. Now, for the Ninja achievement, I need to play 10 shivs in a single turn as the Silent. That would require a completely different deck. Having those poison cards in my deck would only hinder me in pulling shift cards, and I'm now just looking for cards I normally wouldn't be looking for. Strategizing about how I could manage to get 10 shivs on my hand in one turn when you would normally only have 5 cards in your hand at once. I also have a limited time to reach this, because once I'm at the final boss it's over. See how this is just a fun challenge where I'm forcing myself to adapt and strategize to complete a goal within the existing goal, making this run much different from my other runs. And I think that's a very cool thing. But I also said there were 2 components when it comes to achievements being great in roguelites. And well, Slay the Spire doesn't have the second one, so a new example, Risk of Rain 2, who would have thought, where I need to play as a certain character I'd normally never use, Engineer, and I need to kill the boss at the end of the stage in less than 5 seconds after it spawns. Many ways you can go about this, but really fun to strategize for. Anyways, you know what this achievement also does? It's connected to the game's meta progression. If I kill the boss in less than 5 seconds as the Engineer, I unlock an alternate landmine that I can select as the Engineer's secondary attack. It wasn't just a fun challenge to do, but it also rewarded me by allowing me to use something I couldn't before, making the next run once again especially interesting, because this time I get to use a new weapon I couldn't use before. And that way every run stays more interesting and different from one another. Now, in Cave Runner, every bit of meta progression is linked to an achievement, and the achievements are fun. You know, I told you before, I know what makes a good achievement, okay? I've got experience. The item rerolls are unlocked by performing funny item challenges, like be invincible for 3 seconds straight, only kill 3 or less enemies with a single grenade, which that sounds pretty funny, but it's actually a lot harder than it sounds, or heal 3 hearts with stress relief in one run. What about the distance skips? Those are related to enemies. Keep a bat alive for 500 meters. It's called Bat Friends Forever. It's pretty cool. Hit 3 enemies with a single shot, and save a boar's life by killing him before he does it himself, kinda.
You saved me, but why?
Boar. Whoa, hey! You're going, heaven is real?
Yes it is, but only for boars.
No! They're pretty good at that, and they do it pretty soon normally, so this is a lot harder than it sounds. Requires some luck, but also you could use a couple of good items. Extended magazine helps a lot here, as well as increasing your melee range. Alright, cool. When you unlock something though, it shows this insane unlock animation. But there are more achievements and unlocks. Carrying 10 items at once unlocks a free corpse, which is better than it sounds. Killing every type of enemy, including mutations, yep, that includes boars and all their mutations, unlocks the death skin. If you visit every stage in a single run, you unlock Stage Select, which allows you to change the starting stage. Pretty fun, as this also changes the main menu's look completely. Reaching 3000 meters without picking up a single item unlocks Hardcore mode. This mode can be turned on in the settings, and it has a different high score it tracks. In Hardcore mode, you start with 1 HP and items are way less common. You also can't use the starting corpse if it's unlocked, and the fridge is off limit. There are also no medkits in Hardcore mode, so all healing needs to be done through items, which again, those are pretty scarce. Now, if you're paying attention, you can maybe see that there is still some room in the settings menu for one more game mode. Well, if you complete the logbook, excluding the shiny page, you unlock fridge mode. Every corpse is now a fridge, and when it comes to fridges, you can choose any item you want. It's kind of just a game mode that allows you to mess around with strong builds, basically. Experiment and stuff. There are also some fun achievements that basically just grant you a couple of caps. I also like the way they look. It took a couple of Twitch streams to make all of these, but they turned out nicely, I think. If you get them all, you're rewarded with a medal. Now, one more thing to keep in mind for a PC version is controller support. Now, I wouldn't recommend playing with a controller when you have a perfect mouse and keyboard right in front of you, but mostly for accessibility reasons, I implemented it anyways. Also, it could be playable on Steam Deck now, I think. I don't know how that works. Let me tell you though, implementing it was a complete nightmare. For some reason, the Unity built-in virtual mouse is horrible, and it fried my brain. Like, genuinely, simply implementing controller support without all the bugs took me 2 whole weeks at least. Why? I'll stop there. This topic could fill a whole video on its own, but we need to move on. I don't want to think about it that much. Now, all that's left to do is publish on Steam, which for sure will go smoothly, right? Well, I thought so. I did all the stuff, implemented achievements, made a build for the game, made a store page, and now they just had to review it. Hello?
Yeah?
I came here a few days ago to deliver my game, so you can give it a thumbs up before it's published.
Wouldn't you just expect me to know who you are? Most people at least tell me the name of the game before they start staring me with their soulless eyes.
I was going to.
I was
I
busy
just
doing something else.
You don't seem like you're the one responsible for actually checking. I thought you were like the manager or something.
Hey, just tell me the name of your game.
Okay, it's Incave Runner. Incave Runner.
And your name?
Thijs.
Your address and social security number.
Lockdown start 365-087-23.
Yeah, I didn't need those, by the way, but it is weird that you gave them to me so easily. It tells me exactly the kind of person that you are.
What? Why would you do that? How are you even allowed to work here?
All right, I've reviewed your game.
Okay, so can I go now? Can I just go home and launch the game?
Hell no!
The game got declined. How? What did I do? Did the game break guidelines? Was it unplayable? I thought I fixed all the bugs reported. Don't tell me it's a controller thing. I don't want to go back to controller development, please.
Well, you see, it seems like you mentioned the game being completely playable in English on the store page.
Yeah.
Yet I see Russian text on the posters over here, which means you lied to me. You lied to me. You lied to me.
I've played some Lord of the Rings games. That's Elvish right there. It's not English or Italian or any of the other listed languages. That's Elvish. In what way is that different?
Oh my god.
Wow, come on. I was just trying to make a point.
Thanks a lot, you
anyways, I explained that. Obviously, these posters have Russian text because that's where the game takes place. It's part of the lore. Besides, it's not required for the player to be able to read what's on them. They're decoration in that sense. Literally no difference from the Norse runes in God of War's UI or, you know, like a billion other examples. Alright, okay, I'll stop. But what I'm trying to get to is they agreed, apologized, and the game is now on Steam! Link in the description for that. You can get it right now. I'd really appreciate it if you did. Thank you so much. Even if you're not planning on getting it, wishlisting is a great way to support it, so, you know, you can still do that. This is too much confetti, Gimbo. The video quality is dropping down. This is way too much. You're ruining the mode. I told you to not overdo it.